No body, no business. Acid bath killer. The great ways to relax after a long day of work are red wine, ice cream, and a warm bath, but as we have seen many times before, even the most calming actions can be twisted into horror by the dark imagination of a madman. Such is the horrific case of John George Haigh, a serial killer from England who used bubble baths of acid to kill his victims. John George Haigh was born in 1909 into the ultra-religious Plymouth Brethren family and grew up in Yorkshire, England. His upbringing was strict, to say the least. His father reportedly built a 10-foot fence around their yard to keep out the neighbors. Without playmates, young John grew up alone. At night he was haunted by nightmares. The first signs of trouble appeared in the early 20s when, after a series of odd office jobs, John was fired on suspicion of stealing company money. His life took a brief turn for the better in 1934 when he married a woman named Betty Hamer, but the marriage ended in divorce. Soon after this, John went to prison for fraud. While behind bars, Betty gave birth to a girl, whom she gave up for adoption. John's conservative parents refused to accept this decision and permanently banished their son from the family. Left alone, John moved south to London, where in 1936 he took a job as a driver for a wealthy businessman named William Maxwell. Yet his criminal habits boiled over again. Over the next 7 years, John was in and out of prison for various crimes. It was during this time that he came up with the perfect murder. How can you kill and then actually dispose of the body? Sulfuric acid, of course. To test his plan, John caught mice and immersed their helpless bodies in acid. There he saw it, the creatures disappeared within 30 minutes. In 1943, John had just been released from prison and reconnected with his old boss, William Maxwell. William invited the released prisoner to a celebratory dinner at his parents' house. Shortly after this, William disappeared. John told William's parents that the man was in hiding to avoid being drafted into World War II, but the truth was much worse. John lured William into the basement, where he hit him over the head and then threw him into a 180-liter barrel of sulfuric acid. After this, John moved into William's estate, claiming that the businessman asked him to do so. But as World War II approached, William's parents wondered why their son continued to go into hiding. They soon shared their suspicions with John. He knew one way to calm the fussy couple: give them an acid bath. Now that the entire Swan family was out of the game, John began cashing William's pension checks. He sold their items for around £8,000, £300,000 in today's pounds. With money in hand, the killer moved into the Onslow Court Hotel in London's chic Kensington district. Eventually, the money ran out, especially after John lost most of it. While hunting for money, the killer noticed a promising real estate advertisement in the local newspaper. He went to the home of Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rose. Pretending to be an interested buyer, John soon began a relationship with a wealthy couple. In February 1948, John convinced his newfound friends to travel out of town and visit his new workshop in West Sussex. Upon arrival, John shot the Hendersons and threw their bodies into the bathtub. He then collected their belongings and pawned them for money. Yes, the acid bath killer set up a real chilling racket. He lured rich acquaintances to his horror workshop, sent them to vats, and then sold their property for cold hard cash. John's next and final victim was Olive Durand Deacon, a wealthy widow living at the Onslow Court Hotel. Of all the things, Miss Durand Deacon wanted to meet with John to discuss a brilliant new idea: artificial nails. John gladly invited her to his workshop in West Sussex, where he shot her and dipped her body in acid. However, this time the killer, who took an acid bath, was unable to cover his tracks. Detectives soon linked the missing woman to John and began looking into his long list of previous arrests. When authorities raided his West Sussex workshop, they found evidence of Miss Durand Deacon plus some documents relating to his previous victims. What about acid baths? The plan was not as foolproof as John thought. The pathologist found 3 gallstones and a piece of denture among the remaining sediment, objects that could withstand the effects of sulfuric acid. Authorities arrested John and charged him with murder. He soon confessed to the murder. The men pleaded insane, claiming that he was driven crazy by a childhood nightmare that returned to him as an adult.